American Rescue Plan Act, of which we receive federal funds for use in the state of Maine. I'll explain a little bit more about that in a moment, but I see we're going live right now, live streaming, and we want to introduce ourselves first. So I'll start today with Representative Martin.
Good afternoon, John Martin, House District 151, Northwestern Aroostook County.
And Representative Cloutier.
Hi everyone, I'm Kristen Cloutier. I represent House District 60, which is part of Lewiston.
Representative Cardone.
Hello, I'm Barbara Cardone. I represent House District 127, part of Bangor.
Representative Corey.
Good afternoon, I'm Patrick Corey, represent House District 25, which is part of Windham.
Representative Fay.
Happy Friday, everybody. I'm Representative Jessica Fay. I represent House District 66, which is parts of the towns of Casco, Poland, and Raymond.
Representative Millett.
Good afternoon, Sowen Millett, House District 71, representing the towns of Norway, Sweden, Waterford, and West Paris.
Senator Davis.
Good afternoon. My name is Paul Davis. I represent Senate District 4, which is all of Piscataquis County and parts of Somerset and Penobscot.
Senator Bailey.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Donna Bailey. I represent Senate District 31, which is Hollis, Leamington, Saco, Old Orchard Beach, and part of Buxton.
And my good co-chair, Senator Breen.
Good afternoon. My name is Kathy Breen. I represent 6.5 communities in Cumberland County in the Maine Senate, and I serve as Senate Chair of Appropriations.
And again, I'm Teresa Purse. I represent District 44, which is the majority of Falmouth, and I serve as House Chair of Appropriations and Financial Affairs. Welcome everyone to Friday afternoon, and I see that the Commissioner has joined us. Just to tee this up just a little bit, we're deviating a little bit from our other budget conversations, and we're today talking about the American Rescue Plan, which some people refer to as ARPA. This is federal funds that will be coming to us from the federal government. It's the second in the package in relation to the pandemic. The first was the CARES Act. Maine is set to receive through the ARPA plan $4.7 billion. Much of that is already earmarked to go directly to part of our government, like the Department of Education or maybe the Department of Health and Human Services. There is also a section of money that will go directly out to our local communities and cities and towns and counties. And then there is money that is at our discretion that will be coming to the state, roughly close to $1 billion, that the executive branch and the legislature will determine how to use this funds going forward. And so today we are going to hear a presentation and a recommendation by the governor through her great commissioner, Kirsten Figueroa, the DAFS commissioner, about how the governor would like to propose that we use those funds. And so we're here today to get that initial opening entree into this conversation of how we might best put this to use for our communities and the state as a whole. Are there any questions before we turn it over to the commissioner? She has some testimony for us, and there's a bill. It's LD 1733, and I believe that is posted. Is it already posted, Maureen, or not, for people maybe playing along at home?
Well, 1733 has been posted, and the recommendations I think that the commissioner is going to talk about per section 1 of LD 1733 have been posted on the Bureau of Budget's website. The commissioner's testimony, I believe, has been posted on the AFA committee materials page. So however anybody wants to follow along, there's opportunity.
Thank you so much. And I neglected to introduce Maureen Dawson, who ably assists us in OFBR, in addition to Marianne McMasters, our clerk. They keep us running a tight ship here, and we appreciate it. So I guess we'll just turn it over to you, Commissioner. It's good to see you on another Friday afternoon. I think we did our change package on the 14th, a month ago, or a little under a month ago. So welcome back. It seems to be our time of choice.
Yes, thank you. It's nice to see you all this afternoon. As has been said, LD 1733 is an act to provide allocations for the distribution of state fiscal recovery funds which are the discretionary funds that come from the American Rescue Plan. In section 1, it says that the Department of Administrative and Financial Services shall propose a bill to the Joint Standing Committee on Appropriations and Financial Affairs. And that is the document that Maureen indicates is on the Bureau of Budget's website. It is a 40-page allocations looking document. So that is the document that my testimony will refer to when I refer to page numbers. You're right, we were here 3 weeks ago doing a rather extensive change package, and I do want to say that we got the documents over there today, but just in the nick of time, and so I hope everybody's had an opportunity to find them. All right, here we go. Ships a-sailing.
Take it away, Captain.
Good afternoon, Senator Breen, Representative Peirce, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Appropriations and Financial Affairs. My name is Kirsten Figueroa, and I am the Commissioner of the Department of Administrative and Financial Services. Insert here, great Commissioner. I will be sure to be telling the Governor that later. Thank you, Representative Peirce. I'm here today to present LD 1733, the Mills administration, Governor Mills administration's plan for the allocation of the state fiscal recovery funds included in the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. It is a historic moment to introduce this legislation to implement the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan, a nearly $1 billion proposal to drive Maine's immediate economic recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, make strategic investments for our long-term economic growth and prosperity, and build and revitalize essential infrastructure for families, businesses, and communities in Maine, using the discretionary portion of funds allocated to the state by the Federal American Rescue Plan Act, or ARP. As you will recall, the American Rescue Plan Act invests approximately $4.5 billion in Maine thus far altogether. Of this $4.5 billion, Congress directly committed approximately $3.5 billion to various recovery efforts, including significant support for COVID-19 testing and vaccinations, enhanced unemployment benefits, stimulus payments to families, and funds for businesses, education, childcare, broadband, and behavioral health, as well as funds specifically designated for counties and towns across Maine. The remaining $997.5 million of ARP funds are allocated to the state as discretionary to support Maine's economic recovery from the pandemic. The Mills administration's roadmap for these discretionary funds, the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan, is designed to complement, not duplicate, funding already committed by Congress to other recovery efforts. These funds are entrusted to us to use both wisely and comprehensively. The plan draws from recommendations from the Governor's Economic Recovery Committee and Maine's 10-year economic development strategy, which heard input from thousands of Maine people and relied on the expertise of Maine's business, economic, education, nonprofit, and community leaders to develop detailed consensus priorities for Maine's economic recovery and future. To outline how the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan reflects these recommendations, we've included a separate document that aligns each initiative with the section of the ERC report and/or 10-year strategy in which they were proposed. That looks like this. The plan aims to heal our state from the unprecedented economic disruption of the COVID-19 pandemic, which has created a disparate K-shaped recovery in which those most vulnerable to the disruption of the pandemic remain in dire need of economic supports for themselves and for their families. To that end, the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan proposes historic investments to address Maine's immediate and longstanding economic challenges, increase workforce training and education opportunities for Maine workers, support small businesses and heritage industries, encourage new businesses and job creation through innovation and entrepreneurship, and invest in infrastructure, broadband, transportation, affordable housing, childcare to help retain and attract young families. The plan organizes its proposals into 3 categories for 3 specific purposes. 1, spur Maine's economic recovery from the pandemic. 2, invest in long-term economic growth. And 3, build and revitalize essential infrastructure. If approved by the legislature, the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan would infuse $258.4 million into Maine's immediate economic recovery to address short-term needs and give Maine's economy a shot in the arm, invest an additional $294.5 million into long-term economic growth, and allocates approximately $418 million for Maine's infrastructure. Though largely a reflection of the draft framework outlined last month by the governor, the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan was fine-tuned per guidance from the U.S. Treasury and is presented today to the legislature as an emergency measure in order to expedite the infusion of funds into Maine's economy, while also providing stability and certainty for Maine people, businesses, and communities to achieve long-term growth. I look forward to presenting all the details today. You will note 3 things. First, the proposal includes $22 million to cover administration and successful deployment of the funds, in addition to the $4.6 million previously approved through Public Law 2021, Chapter 78. This will include transparent online tracking of funds as they are injected into Maine's economy, as well as retention of dedicated financial professionals to provide mandated reporting to the federal government and forecast any necessary course corrections as additional guidance is received from the U.S. Treasury. Regular updates will also be provided to the legislature. Second, the initiative to provide funding for the promotion of tax incentives such as the Opportunity Maine tax credit is no longer included, as U.S. Treasury guidance indicates that ARP funds may not be used to reduce or eliminate tax liability. Specifically, the eligible uses do not include directly or indirectly offsetting a reduction in the net tax revenue of the state or territory resulting from a change in law, regulation, or administrative interpretation. Third, the $129 million the administration originally included for high-speed broadband expansion remains a part of the administration's Maine's Job and Recovery Plan, but is not included in this bill. The U.S. Treasury guidance has made it clear that those funds were so important to economic recovery, they were specifically earmarked for that purpose, broadband. And so today's proposal is in addition to that $129 million investment in broadband that will be coming separately from the federal government, anticipated this summer through the American Rescue Plan Act. As you know, many Maine people and businesses are facing difficulty in communities across our state. We believe there is urgency to put these investments to work this summer and fall to help our state, our businesses, towns, and people recover from the effects of the pandemic. We are in regular communication with Maine municipalities and counties as they consider how to best utilize federal funds for their communities. From sewer and water infrastructure to broadband and housing, many communities are seeking partnership with the state to make the greatest impact possible for their residents. We believe these opportunities, if approved by the legislature, will ensure the maximum possible benefit for all Maine people and communities. It is an awesome responsibility to determine how to use these time-limited funds in a way that stimulates economic growth over the short term and the long term in ways that will benefit all Maine people. The administration has created this roadmap in lockstep with the intentions of Congress as they pass this transformative legislation to enable states to move their economies through and past the throes of the pandemic. We have done this methodically and strategically, and at your request with a higher level of detail. Maine's economic recovery, as you know, is urgent, and we now feel we have enough detail to confidently outline this plan. We are engaging with other states' administrations as we all roll out recovery plans for our respective states. And we look forward to continuing to work in close partnership with the legislature and our federal counterparts, including our congressional delegation and U.S. Treasury, to confidently support economic recovery for Maine people. communities, and businesses as they recover from this long and difficult pandemic. We will monitor for further guidance or best practices that may emerge as U.S. Treasury continues its work, as it has said it will do through the summer, and aim to produce formal reports for and provide regular updates to the legislature. We look forward to a robust bipartisan discussion and a robust recovery for Maine. Despite the stormy seas of the past 15 months, we are ready to set sail once again. And so I will begin on page 1 in Part A, which includes several items intended to drive immediate economic recovery from the pandemic. Maine's nation-leading COVID-19 vaccination rate is helping our state turn the corner on this pandemic. It remains crucial, however, to support employers and particularly small businesses to get through this difficult time. These proposals aim to provide new and renewed support for Maine businesses, particularly small businesses, to ensure their doors stay open, their workers are safe and on the job, and our economy is secure in the short term. There are 3 initiatives in this part. The first initiative in the Department of Economic and Community Development provides $20 million for additional economic recovery grants for businesses and organizations struggling to recover from the economic disruption of the COVID-19 pandemic. The second initiative provides $48.4 million for loans and loan guarantees through FAME to help businesses secure needed investment, $48.4 million for loans and loan guarantees to help businesses secure needed investment capital due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Some of those dollars will flow through FAME. It also replenishes capital for the Maine Rural Development Authority to support rural development projects. The final initiative in this part provides $10 million through the Finance Authority of Maine to support assistance programs for businesses or organizations employing emerging financing and/or governance models, including co-ops, B Corps, and employee stock ownership plans. These models became market trends during the pandemic, and flexible programs to support their growth is an investment in economic recovery. Part B on page 2 focuses on investment in heritage industries. The economic disruption from COVID-19 has made investment in heritage industries, including the agriculture, fishing, and forest products sectors, urgently needed to stabilize these core economic engines of Maine's rural areas. By investing in these industries, Maine can help these key sectors recover as they develop new product and market opportunities and sustain important, good-paying jobs across our state. There are 3 initiatives in this part. The first initiative provides $20 million to the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry for urgent infrastructure that supports recovery of Maine's farms and food processors, ensures the sustainability of farms and farm families, increases the supply of local food to meet state food consumption goals, and enhances Maine's agricultural exports while reducing the state's reliance on food imports. This initiative includes 1 limited period contract grant manager position to support the program. Prior to the pandemic, it was known that processing bottlenecks constrained the growth of our agricultural economy and the profitability of our producers. Market and supply chain disruptions caused by the pandemic exacerbated these bottlenecks, causing elevated risk, new expenses, and lost income for farmers, while consumers lost access to certain kinds of foods. The Economic Recovery Committee highlighted agricultural processing as an area of emphasis for investment, and a recent industries infrastructure survey conducted by the Departments of Agriculture, Conservation and Forestry, Economic and Community Development, and Marine Resources verified the opportunities and needs that exist to strengthen our food system and grow value-added economic opportunities within it, particularly grain, fruit, dairy, and meat processing. While survey results are preliminary, more than 50% responded that investments of up to $100,000 would make a significant impact to support their recovery and growth. The next initiative provides $20 million for grants supporting economic recovery and development opportunities in the forest products industry to address reduced sector demand due to the economic downturn and other industry impacts. This initiative will bolster this critical sector of our economy and the related businesses that it supports and that support it at this important time. From value-added products like mass timber to emerging demand for bioplastics and biofuels, a significant opportunity exists to grow this sector, create jobs and economic security in rural Maine, and drive the future of modern, efficient building products and energy solutions, while supporting jobs and sustainable forests. The Heritage Industries Infrastructure Survey showed that, for forestry respondents, categories that most urgently require an enhancement were value-added and other wood product facilities, R&D/innovation facilities, roads and rail, and pulp and paper mill equipment. With this funding, the Maine Technology Institute will deploy grants and loans for research and development, new products and market opportunities, and job growth in innovative forest products industries. The final initiative in Part B is to the Department of Marine Resources for grants targeting seafood processors and dealers to upgrade or replace aging or failing infrastructure or re-engineer and retool facilities in response to product line changes and safety protocols necessary as a result of COVID-19. Many of these businesses have already had to retool or adjust their facilities in short order and at great financial cost during the pandemic to safely continue operations and during unstable market conditions. Unfortunately, many of these businesses have had limited access to other federal seafood coronavirus relief programs due to program restrictions. DMR will implement this program in cooperation with the Maine Technology Institute, with the funding tied to economic recovery and resiliency in the seafood sector. Part C on page 4 provides funding for small business health insurance premium support. Health insurance premiums, already a significant expense for small businesses in Maine, worsened during the pandemic. A relief program through the Maine Bureau of Insurance would provide small businesses that provide their employees with group health insurance temporary relief from rising health insurance premiums as they recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, giving them financial flexibility and help employees keep healthy and working. Under this $39 million proposal, small group health insurance premiums would be reduced by $50 per employee per month for 18 months starting July 2021, with an additional reduction for family coverage. The employer and employee are to share the reduction pro rata according to their contributions to premium. The Bureau of Insurance will issue relief payments to the 5 health carriers based on actual credits made monthly by the carriers. The Bureau will audit small group carriers for compliance and to make sure that there will be no recapture of discounts through premium increases. Carriers will notify their small group business policy holders of the program, its purpose, and when it will end. ARP helps large employers that offer COBRA and individuals covered in the health insurance marketplace, but does not specifically send health premium help to small businesses. The Maine Small Business Health Care Relief Proposal fills that gap. This is important because between March of 2017 and March of 2020, the number of people in the small group market in Maine has dropped by 18%, while premiums have risen by about 33%. The pandemic has worsened the challenges that small businesses face and delayed our efforts to implement reforms to the small group market. Part D, beginning on the bottom of page 4, directs the state controller to transfer $80 million from the Federal Expenditures Fund ARP State Fiscal Recovery Balance to the Department of Labor's Unemployment Trust Fund, no later than September 30th of 2021. State unemployment insurance is paid to eligible Maine people through the Maine Unemployment Trust Fund, which is funded by certain employer taxes. A preliminary projection by the Maine Department of Labor indicates unemployment taxes for these businesses could rise by an estimated 60% for 2022 without additional infusion to the fund. These funds continue the Mills administration's practice of replenishing the fund to meet the unprecedented demand for unemployment assistance during the pandemic, reduce possible tax increases on Maine businesses, and avoid borrowing interest-bearing funds from the federal government. Part E on page 5 includes the initiatives focused on sustaining new businesses and entrepreneurs. Although small businesses and entrepreneurs are central to Maine's economy and strongly supported by both the Economic Recovery Committee and the 10-year economic strategy, many new or newly acquired businesses found themselves unable to access federal relief programs established during the pandemic, because they could not demonstrate the revenue losses necessary for eligibility. This makes supporting and sustaining these new businesses and business owners, many of whom have made significant personal investments into their operations and employees, a key aspect of our state's immediate and long-term economic recovery. There are 2 initiatives in this part. The first provides $6 million for additional economic recovery grants for new or newly acquired businesses and organizations that were unable or ineligible to benefit from prior relief programs. And the second provides $2 million for technical assistance to support these new businesses as they navigate their economic recovery. Page 6 is part F, encourage business diversity. In the pandemic, business owners from underrepresented backgrounds experience barriers to accessing recovery support due to language or cultural factors, lack of relationships with lending institutions, or unfamiliarity or lack of representation with Maine's business support systems. Maine has also not traditionally conducted specific outreach to these businesses, which led to limited understanding and data about their experience and needs. The Economic Recovery Committee and 10-year economic strategy both speak to the need for equitable economic growth and encouragement of business diversity. Supporting business owners from underrepresented backgrounds will only enhance Maine's business climate and economy by providing immediate, targeted technical assistance, outreach, training, and access to capital. The plan also highlights that diversity is fundamental to innovation, entrepreneurial success, and a vibrant creative economy. There are 3 initiatives in this part. The first provides $1 million for technical assistance grants to support business diversity initiatives. The second provides $500,000 for entrepreneurial training for underrepresented populations. And the final initiative provides $1.5 million to the Department of Administrative and Financial Services Division of Purchasing. Funds will be used to develop and conduct statewide education and training events. And additionally, the department will engage in a study to analyze current contract portfolios and assist with the development and implementation of policies and procedures designed to encourage business diversity throughout the procurement process. Part G on page 7 includes initiatives to sustain long-term growth for Maine people, jumpstart research and development. Maine's investment in research and development, a key driver of economic growth, is among the lowest in the nation, according to the Measures of Growth report from the Maine Development Foundation. Research and development spending in Maine is 0.8% of our gross domestic product, which ranks 46th among states. While Maine has ways to evaluate R&D investments, ensure healthy competition, and promote public-private collaboration, Failing to make sustained R&D investments hampers our growth and hinders our economic recovery. The Governor's Economic Recovery Committee made a point of this, saying the economic challenges exposed by the pandemic, quote, has accelerated the need to make strategic investments in innovation and entrepreneurship, end quote. The state's 10-year economic development strategy has identified certain sectors, such as biological and life sciences and advanced forest products, for example, that align Maine's strengths with global market opportunities. These investments have generated strong returns in the past. The state's last R&D bond invested $45 million, coupled with $1.06 million from the Maine Technology Institute, attracted $192 million in private investment that created over 5,350 good-paying jobs. There are 3 initiatives in this part. The first initiative provides $75 million for the Maine Technology Institute to support and leverage private investments in research, development, and innovation in the state's targeted technology sectors to support economic recovery and growth. Funds will be awarded to Maine organizations through a competitive process to help them start innovative initiatives, grow market share, increase revenues, expand employment, and preserve jobs. The next initiative provides $4 million for contracted services for the Department of Environmental Protection to conduct time-sensitive licensing for urgent economic development projects to support recovery and job growth. DEP is receiving more land use permitting applications than in the past decade and cannot conduct technical and regulatory reviews within timeframes needed to support investments. These resources will allow for DEP regulatory experts to focus on nuanced regulatory issues while expediting more routine licensing processes. Limited period and contractual positions will also work in coordination with DEP subject matter experts to migrate DEP's existing licensing processes into an updated data management structure. Contractors will be selected for expertise in information technology and process improvement techniques. This will enable experienced DEP licensing staff to continue reviewing permit applications while also contributing their knowledge to agency-wide efforts to modernize how DEP engages with the regulated community and citizens. The final initiative provides $1 million to modernize DEP licensing processes using contracted services for organizational change management and integration of information technology with licensing regulations. The selected contractors will also provide stakeholder facilitation and rule development services to assist DEP with comprehensive revisions to land use regulations, including consideration for sea level rise and other climate change effects. This work will be coordinated with the project team developing DEP's new online licensing data system so that updated regulatory requirements can be designed to maximize use of data management technology and to eliminate unnecessary administrative steps in the licensing process. The vendor will facilitate effective stakeholder engagement, including public outreach and development of guidance and training for local officials. Part H, starting on page A, includes plans to launch health workforce initiatives. Healthcare employs more workers than any other job sector in Maine, yet critical worker shortages existed in Maine prior to the pandemic and have been exacerbated by it. These shortages limit access to quality care, particularly in behavioral health and long-term care, increase costs, and affect Maine's ability to attract talented workers, since quality healthcare is often a priority for relocation. These funds would expand industry partnerships, build career ladders, promote and incentivize opportunities in rural healthcare settings, and support diversification of the workforce. It would also create one-time dedicated pools of funding for hospitals and for nursing homes to help recruit and retain workers in critical areas in a public-private partnership model. There are 8 initiatives in this part. The first initiative provides $1 million in one-time funding to the Finance Authority of Maine for a pilot loan repayment program to help attract and recruit healthcare workers providing physical, behavioral, and oral health services in a broad array of settings to address critical workforce shortages exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. The next initiative provides $7.2 million to the Department of Labor's Employment Services Activity Program. This funding invests in training and stackable credential attainment for incumbent frontline healthcare workers. The COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated Maine's critical shortage of direct service workers, including certified nursing assistants, personal support specialists, and behavioral health professionals, who are on the first rung of a career ladder and often leave for work in other sectors. To retain this critical workforce and reduce turnover, this initiative would establish a tuition remission program for direct service healthcare workers to attain credentials and move into the next run on their career pathway, such as a CNA to an LPN. The next initiative provides funding for 3 limited period career center consultant positions and 1 limited period employment and training specialist 3 position to assist in the establishment, program referrals, enrollment, and payment processing for this tuition remission program. It includes customization of the department's system to track enrollments, process payments, and gather required information to evaluate outcomes, including match with existing employer wage records, surveys, etc. The next initiative on the top of page 10 establishes 1 limited period public service coordinator 2 position in the Department of Health and Human Services to support curriculum design that aligns required certifications for entry-level positions, such as direct service professional, mental health rehabilitation technician, and CAN, with college credit-bearing courses and stackable credentials. This will allow frontline staff to advance their careers, increase the pool of healthcare workers with degrees, and help forge pathways for workers who may have been displaced by the pandemic to find jobs that can lead to long-term careers in healthcare. The 5th initiative in this part provides one-time funding to increase critical healthcare workforce pipeline by providing incentives to providers to serve as preceptors and clinical sites for healthcare students who require clinical hours and related oversight. Part of the workforce shortage in Maine is the shortage of training opportunities. This would expand clinical education and training programs by supporting educators and their organizations to spend time on developing talent. The next initiative establishes 2 limited period career center consultant positions to provide information on stackable credentials, prior learning credits, and to assist out-of-state and foreign trained healthcare workers to quickly re-credential as licensed providers in Maine. The 10-year economic plan included helping people with credentials obtained outside the state of Maine with becoming licensed in Maine. Career Center staff will partner with DHHS and DFPR to identify what training is required by the individual to become licensed or certified in Maine, and then connect people with that training and those opportunities for tuition assistance. The next initiative provides funding to develop and refine healthcare career pathways and implement healthcare apprenticeships. This initiative establishes funding to help refine existing healthcare pathways and to establish apprenticeships within the healthcare sector. This funding may be utilized to help healthcare employers upskill their frontline workforce, expand CNA, medical assisting, and specialty nursing apprenticeships, and expansion to other classifications, such as LPN, X-ray technician, respiratory therapist, etc. This funding will provide partial reimbursement of the training costs for registered apprentices using a model based on the existing Maine apprenticeship program. The last initiative in Part H establishes one limited period statistician position to collect and prepare data for analysis to ensure that ARP-funded services are based on sound information and that results are accurately reported. The Department of Labor's Center for Workforce Research and Information conducts analysis and reports on Maine's labor market. The substantial ARP investment in Maine's healthcare workforce must be based on accurate and meaningful data about these skill needs, job openings, and available workforce by geographic area of the state. This position will work with other CWRI staff to compile healthcare workforce data. CWRI will also work with DHHS to develop performance measures of the healthcare workforce.
Commissioner?
Yes.
That was a lot of acronyms and lots of detail there. Do you need a minute to take a breath or a glass of water or anything?
Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you very much.
You don't need my permission, by the way, obviously, but
yeah, I do appreciate you stopping me for a minute though. Okay, Part I.
Away we go.
Starting on page 11, includes initiatives focused on the Clean Energy Partnership. Clean energy jobs are among the fastest growing jobs in the country. Careers spanning from electricians to HVAC technicians to engineers offer good paying jobs for workers seeking new, better paying job opportunities and young people seeking careers. Maine's overall shortage of skilled workers is an obstacle to filling these jobs. Maine lags other New England states in its number of clean energy jobs per capita, and COVID-19 has challenged parts of this economy, like weatherization and energy efficiency businesses, and has hindered the growth of new companies. The Clean Energy Partnership will support clean energy and energy efficiency job growth through workforce development programs developed in partnership with the Department of Labor and with industry and education leaders. This program will support innovation of advanced technologies and services that contribute to the achievement of states' clean energy, climate, and economic recovery goals. Funding may also be used for research and analysis of clean energy finance development tools that support the growth of this industry. There are 4 initiatives in this part. The first provides $1.5 million for apprenticeships at the Department of Labor. Funding will enable the expansion of apprenticeship opportunities. Maine Department of Labor currently has electrical apprenticeships in the solar energy installations. Most clean energy jobs could become registered apprenticeships, including assembler, fabricator, and meteorological technician. This funding will provide partial reimbursement of the training costs for registered apprentices using a model based on the existing Maine apprenticeship program. The next initiative provides one-time funding to establish the Workforce Development Program that advances clean energy workforce development and training programs, including but not limited to internships, scholarships, apprenticeship, and pre-apprenticeship programs, and a pilot initiative through AmeriCorps. This initiative will also support the development of an online platform for attracting workers, sharing training opportunities, and highlighting job opportunities in this sector. The Governor's Energy Office shall develop this program in partnership with the Department of Labor, industry, education institutions, and others, and shall focus efforts on supporting workers and businesses most impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and economic impacts. It also provides funding for one limited period Public Service Coordinator 2 position to manage this program's development. The third initiative establishes one limited period Public Service Coordinator 2 position to manage industry and higher education sector engagement and program development of the Clean Energy Partnership. And the last initiative in this section provides one-time funding to advance innovation in the clean energy sector, including but not limited to providing grants in coordination with the Maine Technology Institute as well as supporting partnerships with the private sector, education institutions, and others. Part J, starting on page 13, establishes a domestic trade program. The international trade disruption of the COVID-19 pandemic has made expanding and diversifying domestic opportunities for Maine's businesses sustained economic recovery. The domestic trade program, as envisioned by the 10-year economic development strategy, will support Maine's small and mid-sized businesses identify and access new domestic markets for their products by providing market research data and marketing support to increase their domestic exports. Maine is 17th in the nation for demand satisfied by imports, and this program will include a business-to-business campaign to connect Maine companies with local vendors to purchase services and products. The program will be housed in DECD's Office of Business Development and will have an advisory committee of private sector leaders. There are 4 initiatives in this part beginning on page 14. The first provides for the management of the domestic trade pilot within the Office of Business Development. The second provides grant funding and contracts for project partners for state trade promotion opportunities for Maine companies. The third provides funding for trade and market analysis opportunities for Maine companies. And the final provides the funding for the domestic trade pilot program and its outreach. Part K, starting on page 15, includes initiatives to expand and strengthen Maine's workforce and to attract and retain workers. Funding will support worker attraction and relocation programs that encourage long-term residency in Maine. This initiative addresses a long-standing economic and workforce challenge that has increased in urgency during the pandemic, exacerbated by an unaffordable housing market and childcare challenges. This issue is impeding the recovery of tourism and other businesses facing a shortage of available workers. There are 2 initiatives in this part. The first initiative provides on page 15 one-time funding to build out a complementary talent workforce attraction and retention system that seeks to attract people to Maine and into the workforce. Talent recruitment and retention is a key tenet of the 10-year economic strategy and a leading recommendation of the Governor's Economic Recovery Committee. The second provides one-time funding to address critical healthcare workforce shortages through a collaborative public-private partnership to support nursing home and hospital healthcare recruitment efforts. Maine, along with most other states, is facing a critical shortage of healthcare professional staff. These funds will build upon existing recruitment strategies that exist within the current healthcare infrastructure. Part L, starting on page 16, includes initiatives to expand and strengthen Maine's workforce, expand Maine's career exploration program. These initiatives will expand the Maine Career Exploration Program, part of the state's 10-year economic strategy. To help students explore career opportunities geared to their interests, students in the program would have 1 paid internship between their junior year of high school and 1 year after graduation. To provide accessible and affordable education and training for working adults, the program will also offer incentives and assistance to workers and employers to access training and skills development opportunities. There are 2 initiatives in this part. The first initiative provides for 3 years of pilot funding for on-the-job training for Maine youth to be able to explore career options, including internships and related program supports, such as transportation, childcare, and technology. The second initiative provides funding for youth pre-apprenticeship programs to support urgent workforce needs and support student exploration of good-paying careers. Maine is facing a shortage of trained workers to support business recovery. Quality pre-apprenticeship programs benefit employers, educators, and students by providing work-based learning to help youth prepare for an entry-level registered apprenticeship. Employers benefit by being able to determine if they want to invest in a full registered apprenticeship for the young adults while they are still in school, and by developing a talent pipeline with the skills the employer needs. Part M, starting on page 17, includes initiatives to expand and strengthen Maine's workforce by creating the Remote Worker Program. With Maine as just one of 10 locations in the US to successfully attract new residents to live and work remotely during the pandemic, further strengthening the attraction and integration of remote workers into our communities is an economic growth opportunity. These funds will support outreach to potential remote workers and their employers, grants for communities to welcome and integrate remote workers and their families, and funding for collaborative workspaces to help remote workers engage in local communities and economies. This project will also allow an expansion of the Working Communities Challenge in partnership with the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston. There are 2 initiatives in this part. The first initiative provides $2.5 million to build out the infrastructure and information needed to attract and integrate remote workers into Maine's communities and economy through clarifying all rules and requirements for employees and employers, and providing marketing and outreach around this information. Also, consideration of any specifics around tax implications or offering any incentives longer term, and the development of employer materials for out-of-state employers with remote workers in Maine. The second initiative provides $2.5 million to support a co-working development. In addition to expanding the existing program, these dollars will be used to leverage the spaces as a mechanism for integrating remote workers into their Maine communities. Use of funds will be guided by the input of the co-working spaces and the work they have been doing collaboratively over the last year. This will also expand the Working Communities Challenge to 3 additional communities. Part N on page 18 includes initiatives to expand and strengthen Maine's workforce, train workers through Maine's career and technical education centers and higher education systems. To meet workforce development needs in emerging economic sectors, in alignment with the 10-year economic development strategy, these funds will support infrastructure and equipment upgrades for Maine's career and technical education centers that advance programs and curricula for high school students, new University of Maine system and Maine Community College system targeted workforce programs, and competitive workforce development grants available to all higher education institutions in Maine. The Governor's Economic Recovery Committee November recommendations also prioritize the need for investment in training and education to unleash the power of the state's workforce, noting that, quote, students and skilled workers are more likely to stay in Maine when they have fulfilling jobs and access to prosperous career pathways, end quote. The report also cited that college graduates earn about 56% more, about $20,000 a year on average, than those with only high school diplomas, and that gap continues to grow. Maine statute identifies a post-secondary attainment goal of increasing the percentage of working age adults holding a high-value certificate, college degree, vocational education, or other industry-recognized credential to 60% by 2025. Currently at 46%, Maine must increase degree and credential attainment at both our private and public institutions to meet our state's goal and prepare Maine people for good paying jobs. There are 4 initiatives in this part. The first initiative provides $20 million of one-time funding to the Department of Education for infrastructure and equipment grants for Maine's career and technical education programs, with a focus on career development and training to meet Maine's workforce needs for economic recovery, workforce development, and supporting good paying opportunities for Maine students. The next 2 initiatives provide $35 million of one-time funding each for both the Maine Community College system and the University of Maine system to support workforce development plans, targeted training and career pathway programs, and new training program infrastructure designed to meet the needs of workers and students, as well as main employers and industries, especially those most impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, including hospitality, heritage industries, healthcare, and skilled trades that are in demand. These programs will also support workforce demand required for other economic opportunities, ranging from broadband expansion to construction trades. The last initiative in this part provides $15 million in one-time funding for competitive grant funds to State of Maine higher education institutions, with grant program criteria to be developed jointly by the Departments of Economic and Community Development, Labor, and Education, that target programs and infrastructure to meet the needs of workers and students, as well as main employers and industries, especially those most impacted by COVID-19 and as required to support state economic growth strategies. Part O, beginning on page 20, includes initiatives to expand and strengthen Maine's workforce, advancing equality. Increasing diversity, equity, and inclusion in Maine's economy and workforce is recommended by the 10-year economic strategy and the Economic Recovery Committee as critical for long-term economic growth to address the state's long-standing need to grow its workforce and the disparate impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on underrepresented communities in Maine. This investment of $8 million of funds will support engagement with Maine's racial and ethnic communities, tribal communities, the state's Permanent Commission on the Status of Racial, Indigenous, and Maine tribal populations, and other underrepresented and marginalized communities to develop programming that reduces economic and employment barriers and advance opportunities for Maine people of diverse backgrounds, cultures, races, genders, religions, and socioeconomic statuses. There are 5 parts in this initiative. There are 5 initiatives in this part. The first initiative provides $1.5 million for the promotion of diversity, equity, and inclusion in Maine's workforce. Investment in the promotion and training to support diversity, equity, and inclusion in public and private hiring, to include technical assistance to the state and Maine businesses and organizations for hiring and retaining a diverse workforce. The next initiative allocates $3.5 million to advance opportunity and reduce structural, economic, and workforce barriers for individuals from historically marginalized backgrounds based on race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, religion, and socioeconomic status, and increase access to state funding for diverse businesses and nonprofits, to include infrastructure investment for qualifying businesses and nonprofits. The third initiative at the top of page 21 provides $1 million for improved data collection to support efforts that advance opportunity and reduce structural, economic, and workforce barriers for individuals from different backgrounds, cultures, races, genders, religions, as well as reduce barriers for diverse businesses and nonprofits. And the next initiative provides funding to assist people in underserved populations with addressing basic needs and seeking employment. The Department of Labor will implement a pilot program that will leverage relationships that community organizations have with underserved populations to assist people with expanding employment opportunities, connecting them with career center services and job training programs, and obtaining support for basic needs while they seek employment or training. The final initiative in this part provides funding to expand the Progressive Employment Program for all underrepresented populations and provides technical assistance to employers. Progressive employment consists of short-term placement opportunities that allow people to try out a new work scenario, build valuable skills and experience, and show an employer what they can do. Work placement opportunities can include everything from an informational interview and company tour to job shadowing and short-term placements. Employers like Progressive Employment because they know DOL carefully matches job seekers to the right opportunities and that they will have a chance to assess the person's skill without commitment of making a full-time hire. The Maine Department of Labor uses this model for people with disabilities, and it can be expanded to other disadvantaged populations. Funds will support the expansion of the program and subsidize short-term placements. Would it be okay to take a couple of minutes?
Absolutely.
I think I'm a little more than halfway through.
Mhm.
5 minutes maybe?
Yeah, why don't we just say 10 minutes at 2:40, we'll come back.
That would be great.
Give everybody a minute to stretch, walk around.
Thank you very
You
much.
bet. Make sure you mute yourself and turn your camera off while we're away. Thanks. Welcome back, everyone. Right on time. How impressive. Commissioner, we're on page 20, I believe. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Page 20, the bottom of page 20 in my testimony. Ready?
We're
Okay,
ready.
thank you very much for the break. Part P, beginning at the bottom of page 21 of the LD doc, includes initiatives to expand and strengthen Maine's workforce, connecting workers to job opportunities. To help the state's 10-year economic strategy move forward, these funds will enhance coordination efforts in the labor market. There are gaps between the types of skills needed and existing and available workers, and communication gaps that prevent workers from matching with available jobs. These initiatives will be funded with $15 million and will offer an opportunity to build new infrastructure and pilot new programs to support skill advancement, outreach, and build additional opportunities to support connections and pathways for workers to open opportunities, establish services for emerging industries, expand supports for employers and workers, and enhance program outreach and evaluation. There are 7 initiatives in this part. The first initiative establishes 4 limited period career center consultant positions to increase individualized employment services to people who have been out of work during the COVID-19 pandemic. The Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan, combined with the LD 221 budget, provide an unparalleled investment in Maine's workforce. The change package to LD 221 includes a general fund investment in the department's career centers that hasn't been seen in 20 years. As you know, the Career Center staff work with people to develop an individualized employment plan. These plans match people's skills and interests with jobs and industries in their area. These plans also identify resources to help people who are struggling with barriers that prevent them from participating in the workforce. To meet the increased demand for employment assistance, the department is adding 4 limited period career center consultant positions in ARP, in addition to the 16 that have been proposed in LD 221. The next initiative provides $4 million for apprenticeships to facilitate economic recovery for workers and businesses impacted by COVID-19. Apprenticeship is an industry-driven, high-quality career pathway where employers can develop and prepare their future workforce, and individuals can obtain paid work experience, classroom instruction, and a nationally recognized portable credential. The third initiative provides $3.7 million for connecting workers affected by COVID-19 with jobs that match their skills, interests, and geographic area for overcoming barriers like transportation and childcare, and for the development of an online portal for connecting multiple workforce resources. Career centers work with people to develop an individualized employment plan. These plans match people's skills and interests with jobs and industries in their area. These plans also identify resources to help people who are struggling with barriers that prevent them from participating in the workforce. These funds will be used to address barriers that may be preventing people from becoming and remaining employed. The next initiative provides $1.5 million for the Competitive Skills Scholarship Program to train disadvantaged individuals impacted by COVID-19. The Competitive Skills Scholarship Program provides funding for education, training, and necessary support services that lead to good paying jobs. Eligible education and training must be universally recognized and accepted by the trade or industry in which the participant intends to seek employment, and must provide opportunity for employment in high-wage, in-demand jobs in Maine that lead to a substantial improvement in earnings and benefits. Eligibility for each component is the same and is dependent on the individual. Each participant must not already have a marketable post-secondary degree, have an income lower than 200% of the federal poverty level for their applicable family size, be working toward a job in a high-demand, high-wage occupation, and have the aptitude and ability to complete the desired educational program. The CSSP has been unable to accept new enrollees since November of 2019. This funding will support eligible individuals who have been affected by COVID-19 to train for a high-wage, in-demand occupation. The next initiative provides $3.7 million to assist industries hardest hit by COVID-19 with workforce development training, networking, recruitment, and collaboration to raise career and industry awareness. DOL's industry partnerships are organized to align education, workforce, and economic development partners and others to collaboratively design responsive solutions to meet the needs of manufacturers. They are focused on a single industry to allow business leaders to engage directly with industry peers across traditional boundaries. Partnerships are driven by business leader priorities that go beyond basic workplace skill needs to building a sustainable talent pipeline and diving deeply into technical or supply chain needs and established regionally to address the dynamics of local economies and identify common issues, challenges, and opportunities across employers. Funding will support efforts of targeted partnerships and the development of a talent pipeline. The next initiative establishes one limited period eligibility specialist position and provides all other for outreach and other expenses related to the Worker Opportunity Tax Credit program in order to create incentives for employing traditionally disadvantaged populations, which have been hardest hit by COVID-19. The WOTC program provides tax credits to employers who hire individuals that typically face serious barriers to finding employment. Some of these individuals include qualified veterans, justice-involved individuals, SNAP program recipients, and vocational rehabilitation referrals. This program has done an incredible job of breaking down potential barriers for populations that have a difficult time finding work. The WOTC program incentivizes hiring of populations who often watch from the sidelines and encourages a more diverse and inclusive workplace. Maine's WOTC allocation of $76,000 is inadequate to process the 13,000 applications that come in yearly. This funding will clear up the backlog of employer applications and ensure that employers receive a determination of their WOTC eligibility in a timely manner. In addition, promotion of the WOTC program will create greater awareness of the program and encourage hiring of people who are traditionally overlooked. The final initiative in this part establishes one limited period senior economic research analyst for evaluation of ARP-funded workforce programs through data analysis and impact evaluations. The CWRI conducts analysis and reports on Maine's labor market. The substantial ARP investment in Maine's workforce must be based on accurate and meaningful data about the skill needs, job openings, and available workforce by geographic area of the state. This position will work with other CWRI staff to compile Maine-specific workforce data. Part Q on page 24 addresses regulatory reform, increasing licensing and permitting efficiency. These funds would support making state licensing easier and faster for businesses and more transparent and accessible to the public through launching an online licensing system for environmental and other state licenses. A timely and fair permitting system is crucial to economic investments, which was felt especially during the pandemic. This proposal envisions contracting with a software company for this licensing system and to put funds into the economy quickly and multiply it through savings for businesses and the state. This initiative will provide $8 million to fund development of an agency-wide online licensing and compliance portal for the Department of Environmental Protection to serve the regulated community and citizens. The new system would provide modern workflow and constituent self-service functionality that is not possible with DEP's legacy databases, will eliminate redundant paperwork submissions, and will enable applicants to manage their records with DEP online. The system will be developed to support environmental and other state licenses, making licensing easier and faster for businesses and more transparent and accessible to the public. Timely and fair environmental permitting is critical to support business investments. Maine's 10-year economic development strategy calls for the state to create a web portal that would enable businesses to understand the regulatory system for their particular projects, the standards they must meet, the critical path the application would follow, and the anticipated length of time for a decision. The Governor's Economic Recovery Committee specifically recommended that the state should develop and implement an online permitting system at the Department of Environmental Protection to enable tracking of permit applications. Part R on page 24 includes initiatives to build and revitalize infrastructure for a better tomorrow. Infrastructure in the 21st century is much more than just roads and bridges. It is a fundamental support systems that ensure people are able to live a decent, healthy, and productive life in Maine. It is the foundation that will support Maine people and families as they seek to recover from the pandemic, and it will keep Maine people here and attract others to come here, live, raise their families, and contribute to our economy. The Governor's Economic Recovery Committee strongly recommended infrastructure investments in broadband, affordable housing, transportation, and childcare in response to the economic upheaval of COVID-19. With a strong infrastructure, Maine can grow its population, grow its economy, and ensure we are a state where everyone can thrive. This part includes 9 initiatives. The first initiative provides $21 million in funding for the expansion of affordable high-speed broadband access in Maine, leveraging private funding and ensuring long-term benefit for Maine through the new Maine Connectivity Authority. The new authority will utilize state mapping data to ensure the funds are targeted across the state, supporting increased high-speed access. The authority's investments will be used to ensure affordable access for all communities and citizens, and will maximize the use of public dollars for the long-term benefit. This funding will be supplemented by the $129 million in anticipated coronavirus capital projects funds Maine is expecting to receive through a separate American Recovery Act program by summer, targeted to support access to high-quality, modern infrastructure needed to thrive, including internet access. The funding provided in this bill, plus the coronavirus capital projects funds, will provide a historic $150 million investment in expanded, equitable, high-speed internet access for Maine people. The Economic Recovery Committee highlighted the urgency of these investments and wrote that, quote, broadband has become the de facto line of demarcation between communities with economic opportunity and those with dwindling populations. And even broadband in most urban areas of Maine lack the fiber to the home speeds found in metro areas nationally. The pandemic has added urgency to this long-standing need and its importance to talent attraction and retention, end quote. The report also highlighted housing issues and how the pandemic has, quote, exacerbated Maine's housing crisis situation as housing stock decreases, prices skyrocket. Affordable housing lists have grown and more families face evictions due to their inability to pay rent. Although programs exist to make housing affordable, they require reform and additional funding to ensure that they meet the scale of the current problem, enable more Maine workers to live closer to where they work, and make Maine more attractive to families considering moving here, end quote. The next initiative provides funding for $50 million in investments to expand housing options that are affordable to workers and their families to own or rent through existing financing programs through Maine Housing, as well as new incentives in partnership with DECD, and utilizing input from stakeholders, especially Maine's municipalities and counties who are considering housing investments utilizing their ARPA allocations. These funds may also be used to provide planning and technical assistance for communities, developers, and builders to encourage construction or production of affordable, energy-efficient housing units close to service and employment centers to support families and reduce commuting times. The Maine legislature also has a pending housing stakeholder process that may provide important recommendations to guide the use of some portion of these funds for fiscal year 23. The next infrastructure investment provides $50 million in one-time funding to the Efficiency Maine Trust to support efficiency and weatherization programs for homeowners, renters, communities, and businesses. Of the total, it will provide $25 million to accelerate weatherization and efficiency upgrades for Maine homes, especially for low-income residents, older Mainers, and renters who have struggled to get by during this pandemic. These funds will also assist municipal, county, school, and community organizations with heating and ventilation efficiency projects by providing $15 million in matching funds, and will support $10 million in incentives for industries and businesses to invest in energy cost savings, supporting economic recovery and improved efficiency. The fourth initiative provides $10 million of one-time funding to the Department of Health and Human Services to provide grants to renovate, expand, or construct childcare facilities to increase availability of accessible and affordable childcare. This initiative includes one limited period Social Services Manager 1 position to support the management of this program. A recent analysis by the Bipartisan Policy Center found that close to 5,000 Maine children with working parents, mainly in rural areas, do not live near a childcare program. Based on provider and constituent reports, gaps in childcare may have worsened during the pandemic, as some providers have reduced capacity or closed due to COVID-19 pandemic. Investment in childcare was a key recommendation of the Governor's Economic Recovery Committee and the state's 10-year economic development strategy to attract new families to Maine, allow parents to stay in the workforce, and assist employers in finding skilled workers. Based on provider and constituent reports, gaps in childcare may have worsened. Sorry. Maine is expected to receive an additional nearly $120 million in federal funds through the American Rescue Plan for child care program support as part of what has been described as, quote, the single biggest national investment in child care since World War II, end quote. These investments are detailed in the Child Care Plan for Maine and are targeted to increase access to high quality childcare and to support and expand Maine's childcare workforce. Additionally, to support the expansion of high quality early childhood education, the next initiative on page 27 provides $10 million for one-time funding to the Department of Education for grants for school administrative units to establish new or expanded public pre-K programs and pre-K partnership programs for 4-year-olds to increase the number of children accessing high-quality pre-K. Priority will be given to programs that engage in community partnerships, provide longer duration programs, support inclusive programming, and enroll socioeconomically disadvantaged students. This initiative also establishes one limited period contract grant specialist and provides funding for one contracted distinguished educator position to provide the technical assistance and professional learning to school administrative units for pre-kindergarten expansion. The next 4 initiatives allocate funds to the Department of Transportation. Maine's transportation system serves every Maine citizen and is a cornerstone of the economy. Even before the pandemic, Maine and most other states confronted chronic transportation funding challenges, and reduced travel during the pandemic has resulted in lower highway fund revenue to support infrastructure repairs. The first initiative provides $50 million in state fiscal year 2022 to help offset highway fund revenue losses and support capital projects in summer 2021 to preserve, improve, and construct highways and bridges statewide. The next 4 initiatives allocate funds. Looks like I have some repeat. So the bottom of page 27. Okay, so we're going to the top of page 28, the second paragraph. The second initiative provides $20 million in one-time funding for municipal, regional, and state infrastructure adaptation improvements that support public safety and emergency management and increased infrastructure resilience. These funds will create a pilot infrastructure adaptation fund to support local, regional, and state infrastructure projects that address critical vulnerabilities. These funds will help protect vital infrastructure most at risk, help unlock additional federal and other funding options, and benefit public safety and emergency management efforts. This pilot funding program will support competitive projects across the state, determined in partnership with municipalities, counties, and relevant state agencies. The third initiative provides $5 million to support workforce transportation pilot projects. Connecting workers to job opportunities across the state helps both Maine people connect to work opportunities, and it helps Maine employers who need workers, especially in the rural parts of our state where traditional public transportation options are limited. Maine DOT is reviewing best practices from across the nation and will work with the local, regional, and state partners, including the Department of Labor, Chambers of Commerce, community action agencies, and employers to identify needs and opportunities, develop and support initiatives, and design a grant program to support innovative and promising pilot projects across the state that connect Maine people with employment opportunities. The fourth DOT initiative provides $8 million to expand state, municipal, and other publicly accessible electric vehicle charging stations and related infrastructure. As Maine's tourism economy recovers and the border with Canada reopens, this initiative will support growing tourist demand for electric vehicle charging and will support enhanced opportunities for statewide electric transportation opportunities for Maine people across the state. Maine DOT, in conjunction with Efficiency Maine Trust, will locate existing and planned chargers with a priority for expansion of level 3 fast charging infrastructure. Part S on page 30 supports essential drinking and wastewater projects. The need for critical infrastructure improvements, such as upgrades to water treatment plants, storage reservoirs, pipe distribution systems, exceeds the state's current funding capacity. Through a $25 million investment in the state revolving fund and the CDC drinking water program, these funds will address significant backlog of drinking water projects and help municipalities leverage further local and federal ARP funds. These investments improve public health, provide community benefits, reduce the burden for local ratepayers, and support construction jobs. This part also provides $22 million for municipal wastewater and infrastructure projects, also leveraging local ARP funds and accelerating the timeline of these essential local projects that protect public health, provide community benefits, reduce the burden for local ratepayers, and support construction jobs. Additionally, this initiative provides $3 million for the Small Community Grant Program, which supports septic repair and replacement projects, supporting water quality and public health for communities, water bodies, and fisheries. This part includes 3 initiatives. The first initiative provides funds to the Department of Health and Human Services to expand efforts to address imminent risk to public health through investment in public water system improvements, including mitigation of lead in drinking water at schools and daycares and PFAS impacts. Safe, reliable, and affordable drinking water is fundamental to the well-being and economic prosperity of our communities. The Maine CDC drinking water program would utilize these funds to provide grants and low-interest loans to help Maine's public water systems address imminent risks to public health, such as elevated lead in drinking water at schools and daycares, harmful algal blooms in surface water supplies, arsenic and other natural contaminants in groundwater, along with threats from man-made pollutants like petroleum and PFAS, or forever chemicals. Funding would also be used to upgrade existing treatment systems, establish new safe drinking water sources, and repair or replace critical infrastructure such as aging pump stations, distribution piping, and storage tanks to ensure compliance with the Safe Drinking Water Act. All right, it looks like we have a little problem again. So I'll skip that paragraph. The next two initiatives provide funding to the Department of Environmental Protection. This would fund municipal wastewater infrastructure projects, help leverage local American Rescue Plan funds, and accelerate the timeline of these essential local projects. Wastewater infrastructure, such as treatment plants, sewer systems, and pump stations, is typically the highest value asset a community owns, and in some circumstances cannot be affordably sustained solely through local rate payers. In Maine, we continue to have approximately $1 billion of known wastewater infrastructure needs just to maintain and upgrade our existing facilities. Funding will be distributed through DEP's Municipal Wastewater Grant Program. And the final initiative in this part funds DEP's small community grants, which covers costs for repair and replacement of malfunctioning septic systems that impact surface waters, such as lakes and ponds. These grants protect public health, water bodies, and fisheries. This is an existing grant program that has been previously funded with sporadic bond funds. On to Part T on page 31. Begins to outline the plan to invest in outdoor recreation and marine resources by upgrading Maine state parks. Investments in state parks, oops, I think that was part of what we were supposed to. Investments in state parks bolsters the recovery of the state's tourism economy by improving the state's incredible outdoor recreation facilities for visitors and Maine people alike. Maine state parks had more than 3 million visits for the first time in 2020. And through March of 2021, the pace of campground reservations was already 63% higher than last year. While this increase shows the recreational and economic importance of state parks for Maine, it is also straining park staff and infrastructure. These funds will address $50 million in capital maintenance and improvement needs and represent the first meaningful investment in state parks in more than a decade. Park infrastructure is outdated, lacking funding to be properly maintained and in some cases unsafe. In addition to structural repairs to park roads, bridges, shelters, and staff housing, the pandemic highlighted the inadequacy of plumbing and sanitation facilities. Part U, beginning on page 32, includes initiatives to invest in outdoor recreation and marine resources by bolstering fisheries and wildlife infrastructure. During the pandemic, hunting and fishing spiked as people flocked to the outdoors. Already in 2021, fishing license sales are up nearly 20% over last year. At the core of Maine's fisheries is Maine's state hatchery system, which stocks over 1 million fish annually in Maine's waters. Fishing in Maine has an annual economic impact of over $320 million, supports over 3,300 jobs, and there are over 350,000 licensed anglers. This initiative provides $20 million to the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife to be used for hatchery redesign and improvements. The funds will allow for the replacement of end-of-life and antiquated infrastructure at the 88-year-old New Gloucester Fish Hatchery, create needed capacity at Grand Lake Stream Hatchery to manage fish disease threats and conserve an endemic population of landlocked Atlantic salmon, and lastly, improve the quality of hatchery effluent at all 8 fish culture facilities that will improve protections to receiving waters. These investments will not only maintain existing fish production, but efficiencies in modernization and increased capacity are expected to provide some increases in fish production, while investments in effluent treatment will address requirements in wastewater discharge licenses. Part V on page 33 focuses on improving fishing industry infrastructure and monitoring. As the commercial fishing and aquaculture industries recover from the market disruptions and economic challenges of the pandemic, the Department of Marine Resources requires urgent investments to fulfill their industry and management mandates. This part provides $16 million to the department for public health and infrastructure improvements that improve the operations of the department, increase their ability to serve marine industries, and that support urgent restoration projects that improve habitat for commercial and recreational usage. These funds will support a variety of public health infrastructure and industry support needs, including public health monitoring as it pertains to shellfish and water quality, by upgrading equipment to support maximizing harvest opportunities in both the aquaculture and wild shellfish sectors, investment in climate resilient infrastructure on the coast to promote public health and efficiency, and an urgently needed marine patrol vessel upgrade for cost savings and safety. Additionally, needed improvements to boat ramps, docks will improve coastal public access to state-owned facilities at a time their use has greatly increased. The first initiative would provide funding to upgrade Maine's efficiency and monitoring for biotoxin and human pathogens in shellfish. Sorry. The first initiative would provide funding to upgrade Maine's efficiency and the monitoring for biotoxin and human pathogens in shellfish, and support the establishment of a surveillance program to monitor for the human pathogen VP, a naturally occurring marine bacteria in bivalve shellfish that has become a growing health concern in the Gulf of Maine. This investment would provide better support and improved harvesting opportunities for Maine's wild harvest shellfish industry and rapidly growing aquaculture sector, especially as they seek to recover their markets from significant pandemic shutdowns. The second initiative provides infrastructure for funding to support construction of a new offshore patrol vessel to replace an aging asset in its fleet and greatly enhance the Bureau's ability to safely and effectively operate more than 40 miles offshore in the Gulf of Maine to focus on fishing activity and compliance with measures to protect endangered right whales. The vessel would be built in Maine and be the first of its kind to incorporate new innovative marine diesel engine technology that will maximize fuel efficiency and dramatically minimize environmental pollution. Funds will also upgrade and replace failing infrastructure at a number of marine patrol facilities, floats and pilings, upgrades to the heating system for energy efficiency, and replacement of failing electrical infrastructure at the Boothbay Harbor facility that caused a fire and resulted in the loss of a patrol vessel last year. The next initiative will support increased public access at state DMR facilities for recreational access to the ocean with rebuilt ramps, roadways, and ADA compliant piers. The fourth initiative in Part V provides one-time funding to support critical emergent needs to support this critical industry, including research and analysis or contractual support to inform future regulations to protect right whales, increase staffing to implement harvester reporting, and to implement early stage fishery research priorities in the state's proposed offshore wind research array, and to ensure we have the needed data that would be used to protect valuable marine resources in anticipation of commercial offshore wind development in the Gulf. The use of these funds for harvester reporting would delay for an additional year the need for DMR to request either significant license fees increases to our lobster license holders, which we have held off due to reluctance to make such a request during this period of great uncertainty. The final initiative would provide $7.6 million in competitive grants for habitat and tidal restoration projects across the state. A substantial list of shovel-ready projects totaling $96 million has been identified by the Maine Coastal Program and the Division of Sea Run Fisheries in conjunction with community partners. These projects include work to improve fish passage, promote salt marsh resilience, and allow greater tidal flow in restricted crossings. These projects will result in increased fish populations that expand both commercial and recreational opportunities, as well as improved public access. Part W on page 35 includes one initiative to facilitate energy needs. These funds will establish a matching grant program to support electricity grid upgrades that will reduce barriers for economic development by new or struggling businesses, especially in rural areas of the state. The initiative provides $8 million of funding to establish the Interconnection and Electrical Grid Upgrade Program at the Department of Economic and Community Development. And competitive grants will be made in partnership with the Governor's Energy Office. These grants will support electricity grid upgrades that support economic development by new, struggling, or growing businesses in Maine, especially in heritage industries. Part X, beginning on page 35, includes initiatives to modernize state technology. The pandemic has illustrated the need for accessible, safe, and efficient state government services and programs, especially those that can be managed online or through remote programs. These funds will invest in targeted upgrades to make state systems more user-friendly, as well as cybersecurity needed to ensure safe state operations. And these funds will also invest in required heating, ventilation, and efficiency upgrades to promote health working environments and long-term operational savings. The first initiative provides $10 million for enhancement of digital services for citizens that are needed to make state systems more user-friendly to the public. The recent global pandemic has highlighted a pressing need to deliver state services anywhere and anytime. Our ability to effectively deliver remote services will protect state of Maine employees and citizenry. This project aims to develop a single citizen login and begin the transition of services into a one-stop structure for government services. Citizens will be able to easily find and navigate state government's digital presence without needing a full understanding of state agency structures. The second initiative provides $20 million to address the modernization of digital and physical technology assets. To address the modernization of digital and physical technology assets that are required to begin moving away from aging assets that represent accumulating technical debt and risk. These funds will provide for replacement of aging server and network systems and the creation of architectural cloud structures for applications to bring greater flexibility and opportunity to state services in the future. The third initiative provides $6 million for critical investments in the cybersecurity program to help strengthen our core cyber capabilities and improve the overall resiliency of the state of Maine. We have highlighted in previous testimony how years of funding information security with a chargeback model has created a situation where the state's cybersecurity requirements have been unable to keep pace with a rapidly evolving threat landscape. The funding for cybersecurity will augment the proposed general fund appropriation request in LD 221 and allow for the resources needed to tackle some of our highest risk areas, including business continuity planning and workforce enhancements. The last initiative provides funds for increased effectiveness of remote work capability to improve the opportunities of a highly capable remote workforce can provide and create easier ways to work for those on site. This initiative will enable collaboration and efficiency for those not physically together and automate many manual processes. While the remote workforce was a necessity of the pandemic and could be needed in response to other crisis situations, there are other potential benefits to a well-equipped remote workforce. Improved work environment, location independence, cost savings, and positive environmental impacts can be gained through a remote workforce that evolves through continuous improvement processes. The final initiative in this part provides funding for capital construction and repair to address air quality and energy efficiency improvements in Augusta area state-owned buildings. 90% of state-owned buildings in Greater Augusta are more than 46 years old, and of these, 1/3 were built before 1885. Many of these structures are not adequately insulated, and most mechanical systems that provide ventilation to the facilities have exceeded their useful life, which is normally in the 15 to 20-year range. Part Y, beginning on page 37, provides funding for administration. These funds will be used for financial oversight over the course of the next 3 to 4 years of the American Rescue Plan Act, including state discretionary and direct funds, as well as local pass-through funds. This will include coordination, processing, tracking, reporting, reconciling, compliance, auditing, and program guidance, monitoring, and summarizing, as well as for monitoring federal guidance and best practices throughout the period. Significant reporting will be needed to meet federal requirements, as well as consistent, transparent updates for the Maine legislature and citizens. These funds may be used for limited period positions, project management, contractors, and consultant support. Part Z is the part that authorizes the adjustment of allocations by financial order. And on that note, Part Z, and on that note, thank you. Thank you for listening thoughtfully, for understanding and undertaking the unprecedented responsibility and opportunity before us. We look forward to a robust bipartisan conversation during next week's public hearing and work session, and our teams are standing by to record any questions you have today so we can be sure to address them at that time. And we look forward to future updates on the status and impacts of this plan once approved. The amount of energy and expertise that has gone into the architecture of this plan is a reflection of the grave importance of getting this right and taking advantage of the opportunity to be transformative for our state, its economy, and people. As I've said, the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan has been authored after 2 years of engagement with thousands of Maine people, including business, economic, educational, nonprofit, and community leaders, and has received the support and countless Maine organizations and leaders. Josh Broder, CEO of Tilson, and Lori LaChance, president of Thomas College, co-chairs of the Governor's Economic Recovery Committee, said, quote, by emphasizing investments in economic recovery, broadband, childcare, innovation, and workforce development, Governor Mills has set the right priorities to support Maine's people while creating a strong foundation for economic growth. We commend the governor and her administration for their dedicated attention to the issues facing Maine's families and communities, and for bringing forth bold initiative to restore Maine's economic trajectory, grow jobs in our state, and further establish Maine as among the nation's best places to work. And Kate Dempsey, State Director of the Nature Conservancy in Maine, said, this plan represents a critical investment in Maine's economy and environment and a significant step toward a climate-ready future. With bold investments in clean energy jobs, modern and resilient transportation infrastructure, healthy communities, and across the outdoors, this is a plan worthy of the Maine we need to build if we are to meet the challenges ahead. Maine State Chamber of Commerce President and CEO Dana Connors commented, as Maine continues to work through the pandemic and into full economic recovery, it is fortuitous that Governor Mills has already established a 10-year economic development strategy to grow the state's economy, coupled with the Economic Recovery Committee's recommendation to guide our investments. Using these documents as our roadmap, the Maine State Chamber supports the governor's proposal for use of the American Recovery Act funds because they represent short-term investments that will result in long-term gains to Maine employers and their employees. Suffice to say, end quote. Suffice to say, the Maine Jobs and Recovery Plan is worthy of your endorsement as well. Urgently, immediately upon your passage, we can start investing these funds into our communities so that our state, our businesses, towns, and people can not only recover, but chart a path forward towards a brighter future. Thank you, and that concludes my testimony for this Friday.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Appreciate you walking us through a very lengthy and detailed document with a lot of finesse. Do you need a couple minutes before we maybe ask a few questions, or are you ready to?
No, I'm good. I just pushed the wrong button.
Oh, I was like, oh no, she's leaving us already. So thank you again. Do any members of the committee have any questions or thoughts, comments about the report that we've just been given in the bill? I see Representative Hamilton and then Representative Corey and then Senator Breen.
Thank you. And this is going to take a while to digest and really look at fully. So I wondered about your process. Outside of the guidance that you got from the Economic Recovery Committee and the 10-year economic strategy, which I know I echo Dana Connor's words that how fortunate we were to have those two to guide us. But what was the process to put money to task?
I mean, it really was looking through each one of those plans, right? Putting all of it out there and distributing, knowing what we have, using some of the information, we don't have all information, but using information that we have from Treasury guidance, as well as watching, right, understanding what other states are doing, how we put the budget together. As a reminder, right, we combined 3 different opportunities to do a bunch of economic recovery and movement in our state. So but it really foundationally started with the 10-year plan and the Economic Recovery Commission.
Thank you.
Representative Corey.
Thank you for being here today, Commissioner. It appears that a number of these initiatives will create long-term funding expectations. Has there been an analysis of how many of these initiatives using one-time federal funds will likely result in biennial baseline increases?
These are one-time funds and one-time activities. Obviously, if there is success and another opportunity for funding, there are certain initiatives that might continue, but these were meant to be either pilots or one-time investments with these funds.
So all of these initiatives could sunset.
I should say the impacts of them should not. The specifics of them might or would, for instance, transition to other things that already exist, such as the Maine apprenticeship program is already an existing program. It's just that we're infusing money into that program. It certainly is expected that as we are able to infuse some monies into existing programs, that we will learn from, right? We'll have additional learning. And so by the time we get through this money, we'll have efficiencies and continued success with those programs. But where they are new, they are pilots, and when the funding ends, the programs will end. Okay, similar for positions that we mentioned.
Thank you.
Senator Breen.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you very much, Commissioner. That was a lot of work, and we appreciate it. Can you tell me about your initiatives related to R&D? I would say Part G, sustain long-term growth for Maine people, jumpstart research and development. I certainly understand that those are part of the long-term economic plan, and that there are many reasons, good reasons to do that. But I'm trying to figure out how they're COVID related and where in the federal guidance they fit in, where those investments fit into the Treasury guidance on how we can use ARPA money.
Okay. I would like an opportunity to be able to come back to you with an answer to that.
Okay, thank you.
Senator Bailey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is something either Commissioner or perhaps Maureen that I would just like at some point in the future, if we could just get a total amount that is going to each department. I mean, the way this is broken down, there's a number of initiatives and, you know, a little bit's going to DOL and a little bit to DOE. So if we could just get a total, like DOE is getting a total of, DOL is getting a total of, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. Representative Corey, you have another question?
Yes, but if anybody wants to ask a question first, I'd be willing to wait.
No one else has their hand up at the moment, so maybe you go for it, and then we'll
Great,
we'll have Representative Fay after you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I was hoping to see some funding to tackle Maine's substance use disorder impacts. Are there ways to use ARPA money to address those? They're workforce issues to me.
I'm sorry, to address, I'm sorry.
Some of Maine's substance use disorder impacts.
I don't know exactly the specifics of whether ARP funds can, these particular funds, but there is a significant plan at the Department of Health and Human Services for substance use disorder that is using a variety of funding sources. They've outlined it on a comprehensive one-pager, and I'd be happy to send that to you. And so as a result of that, these funds weren't used for that effort because there's already other funds being used for that plan.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Fay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Commissioner Figueroa. This was a lot, and there's a lot in here, and I'm excited about the good that it can do. My question is about Part H and the healthcare and the health workforce initiatives. I notice that there's mention of career ladders, and then there's mention of hospitals and nursing homes recruiting and retaining workers. And I understand that there's a significant shortage in hospitals and nursing homes, but there are also significant shortages in other settings. So I was wondering if the language is specific to nursing homes and hospitals, or if there is going to be some inclusion of other healthcare settings. And then the second question is about career ladders, and it mentioned certified nursing assistants. And there's a huge shortage of them, but there's also a shortage of other types of direct care workers. And I am wondering if those direct care workers are being included in the definition of health workforce.
We will
make sure I get that.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't necessarily expect an answer to that now.
Yeah, certainly anything you'd like to provide us information for, we certainly understand that this is a hefty lift and may not have everything right at the fingertips. Representative Hymanson and then Senator Breen.
Yeah, you mentioned in some of the narrative that you're in regular communication with the municipalities and counties as they consider how to best utilize federal funds for their communities. How are you doing that?
Actually, I can say that Hannah Pingree, the executive director of the Governor's Office of Policy, Innovation, and Future, has met consistently with Maine Municipal Association throughout the pandemic. And that we have had county outreach to the state about their funds. I mean, everyone is interested in doing the right thing, being the most efficient with their funding. And at this point, we're having conversations with almost everybody as we all try to be like the most thoughtful and comprehensive with the funds. I'm happy to get some more information from Hannah about the specifics of her meeting. I want to say every other week they meet, but
yeah, I'd be interested. I know the MMA connection, but I'd be interested with the county, how is facilitated conversation going, and how often, and what is the structure of that? I'd be curious. Thank you.
Sure.
So next we have Senator Breen, and then Representative Millet, and then Representative Martin, and then Representative Cloutier. Senator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are a number of apprenticeships that you mention here. So I wonder if you could give us a table of the various apprenticeship programs and the expectations of the numbers of people who will participate in them. Thank you.
Ken.
And if they're, I assume they're paid, but could you also just let us know if they're paid or not paid? Thank you.
Representative Millet.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have 4 different types of questions, and 2 of them really relate more to the chairs, although one does relate to Commissioner Figueroa, and the other 2 are kind of searching for her concerns, if you will, about the magnitude of what we've heard today and what we know is already on our plate. I think the first question would be, how can we, and I think Senator Bailey touched upon this, best educate the folks on the 3rd floor about not only the 3 broad goals or the summary that makes up the supplement to the bill, but the A to Y parts and the impact on the various agencies that would receive funding under multiple of the 25 objectives that would show the dollar amounts in the best, cleanest way. Probably not at the initiative level, but certainly at the summary level for the entire agency within a given impact. I'm looking at the problem that I think I see, Commissioner, and here's my concern for you, and wondering how concerned you might be. The impact of overlaying $1 billion plus on top of 920 million that we've yet to settle on under the general fund expansion, and the ability of the multiple cabinet agencies and external groups to manage those multiple expansions of assignment and funding by keeping multiple balls in the air at a time when staffing is going to be critical, and the ability to not only manage the financial part of it, but the planning process and the communications issue. I'd like to give you a minute to think about that. And finally, and I'll come back to you, Commissioner, if I could, to the chairs, before we break today, could you kind of outline the process and the timing and the options for segmenting legislative action on this $1 billion plan? I heard references to a hearing early next week. Obviously, the timing of hearing and reflecting upon the testimony and working on a bill raises real questions for me in terms of getting out a 2-year plan for money that might even actually stretch out for 3 or 4 years. So I think that would be something independent of Commissioner Figueroa that we as a committee need to kind of think through, or at least talk through in general terms, if not today, soon. So if I could go back to Kirsten momentarily, are you at all concerned about the ability not only of getting these 2 spending proposals through, but the summer, fall, and winter work in years 1 and 2 on all of the agencies that are going to basically be asked to change the tires on the airplane while they're flying it by adding multiple initiatives to their responsibilities and hiring people that we're hoping will be available to be hired, and keep abreast of those issues at a simultaneous time when we're all concerned about recovery within the economy. Any concerns about your fellow cabinet members expressed to you, or that you would want to share with us about the ability to manage all of this in the upcoming biennium?
Well, in 27 words or less. So I think what I'd first like to say is that we've spent the last 16 months as a cabinet, an administration, and a state government and a state dealing with something that we, first of all, weren't able to plan for, and second, had to overlay onto the responsibilities that government already had. Without, right, talk about flying while building. Responding to a pandemic certainly wasn't anything they teach you in commissioner school, if there were such a thing as commissioner school or governor school. So I would say that we are embracing the challenge and have considerations for the amount of work, but also are excited and ready for the impact, improvements, and transformation that will happen as a result of all of the activities that we've been talking about. There are long-standing issues that we have taught, that people who have worked in state government or listened to issues in state government have talked about for years, and there are opportunities here now. And we will work through those opportunities the way that we have worked through everything, which is leverage partnerships, put everybody in a room together to figure out the best way to make it happen, strategically think about how it can be done most thoughtfully, most efficiently, and with the most impact, and then make it happen. This particular funding, in different than CRF, has a much longer time frame. Some of the funding doesn't even actually have an end date. Broadband, I think, is one of them, that as long as you, right, have committed to the plan and they understand that possibly those funds won't be expended until after 2024, and that's okay, as long as you have a plan. And so I would say, are we all like a little bit nervous about the work? Yes, but I think more we're excited to get into it and to make the changes. And I think we've done the best that we can. You know, there are still unknowns to the Treasury guidance. The US Treasury has clearly said they're continuing to work on this guidance for the next couple of months, but we feel like we have a good plan. We will continue to refine as we get that guidance. We'll continue to report out and adjust. And we will, like we said, make pivotal, transformative changes to get the state through and beyond the throes of the pandemic. And we've done great things before. We'll continue to do them.
Thanks for your response, Commissioner. Thoughtful, and you expressed the concerns that I was feeling. And I worry about you being the point person and the likelihood of you getting any break time, which I know you haven't had for the last 16 months. And this is going to be a huge undertaking for you, the entire cabinet, and the chief executive.
But we can't afford not to.
No, I wasn't suggesting that.
No.
The money is here. We want it to be used appropriately and to good end, and to have the outcomes that you've outlined. It's just a huge challenge.
And I think, you know, there are either staff or some program development monies in some of these initiatives that will ensure that we're getting some external help where we might need it, you know, for things, you don't know what you don't know. And like we said, we're going to engage with partners and consultants and people that know to make sure that and to be able to report out on the impacts. That will be very important to people. Will be understanding the metrics for saying this was a successful project. So I think that our cabinet is up to the task. I know they are, actually.
Thank you, Commissioner. And to Chairperson, I'm not expecting answers at the moment from you and Chair Breen about the best way to educate our fellow legislators and the timelines for the hearing and the working and our ability to perform what needs to be done between now and end of session.
If I could just, I'm sorry, but quickly add, right, we have a couple of documents. We have the governor's proposal, which does do a high level about everything that we just spoke about. And we also put together this document that kind of connects the three plans together. I think those are very helpful to orient people to the high level discussions. And then, of course, hopefully the details that are in what we just presented help further refine. And of course, you know, we look forward to the questions and answers. That's my part, and I will mute now.
No, not necessary. Representative Millett, I will just respond to a couple of your questions directed toward the senator and I. We certainly have been thinking about how we might handle a public hearing while we're in session and doing the final work of the legislature. It's not a topic that's just come up today. We've been talking with our presiding officers about how to address that in an efficient manner, because we certainly want to hear from the public and have that transparency around it. I also just personally have been thinking a lot about how I'm going to educate my caucus around this. This is a lot, and people have a lot of thoughts about it and lots of hopeful opportunity. So I think that is to be determined either individually by caucus or more generally as a whole through events just like this, where we're able to have a Zoom and have this interaction with the commissioner that people could watch at their leisure should they choose to. But more to come on both of those items around how we might finalize our final weeks together and address these things. Like the commissioner and her staff and the cabinet, though, I have the utmost confidence that we'll be able to put our heads together and work toward this and find a plan that we can all wrap our head and hands around to get through this, because this is an extraordinary opportunity. So I have Representative Martin, and then I have.
Right, Madam Chair, can I just chime in also? We don't actually have a public hearing scheduled for.
Oh, correct. Yeah, right.
So we have talked about doing something. We, as Representative Peirce said, you know, we're talking to the POs. We're trying to figure out, given that we have 5 session days next week, we are trying to figure that out, but we do not have a firm public hearing date on the calendar at this time, but we're working on it.
I think there was some rumor happened where this got, I don't know how that happened because we have not scheduled anything. So stay tuned. Representative Martin, and then Representative Cloutier, and then Representative Fay. Oh, you're on mute, Representative Martin.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments in terms, well, actually more of a question, but in order to do some of this stuff, you're looking at hiring someone, for example, for a particular program. But if that were delayed, I'm sure that the staff now in the various offices would be able to pick up some of that work and move forward. Am I correct with that?
Well, I wouldn't want to obligate, like I already said, like we already are doing the work and the COVID. What I would say is that a lot of these initiatives are not brand new, start from scratch things. They're building on things that already exist. And so yes, the staff, they've already done a significant amount of work thinking about what they would do. And so it's not having to start from 0 to get to 60. So it depends on the specific initiative. So I wouldn't want to just blanket it, but yes, a lot of this would be able to move already just in the thinking of it. And I think that Representative Millett used a good term. I am definitely a point person and not all, right? I'm whatever they call the jack of all trades, master of none, is really the commissioner of DAFS, as that person has to present these kind of items. And so I know that the commissioners that are responsible for these items or the staff that are responsible would be happy to provide additional information. And I'm happy to be the conduit to have them do that.
And one last question, in terms of dealing with both the university system and the community college, I'm assuming that you've dealt with them in terms of continuing some of the programs that they've got and they're ongoing now, and that would be to continue what they're doing and broaden their opportunities to provide opportunities for students.
The question is, did we work directly with them on these initiatives?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Both systems are eager and excited to do this work, and as you know, have been actively engaged already in a lot of discussions around these workforce initiatives. So they're eager, and yes, those are ongoing conversations.
I will say it's a great piece of work, by the way, today.
Thank you.
Representative Cloutier.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Commissioner. So I just wanted to follow up on what Representative Hymanson pointed out in terms of the collaboration between the different levels of government. Coming from municipal government myself, I know that despite our best efforts, that communities and municipalities and the state don't always collaborate and have the conversations that need to be had. And right now, I'm hearing all three talk about broadband and using fiscal recovery funds for broadband. And I have a lot of angst and worry that that those efforts are going to be triplicated across the county, the state, and the municipalities. And so I just want to make sure that those conversations are happening, and that if there are ways for me to, I guess, create opportunities for those conversations to happen within my own community, I'm willing and able to do that. But I just want to make sure that we aren't all trying to do the same things with different pots of money.
So noted.
So noted. And also, I know that there are conversations happening around that. Commissioner Johnson is, actively engaged in broadband for the state. And when it was announced that all of these funds could be used for broadband, definitely started those conversations. And so I know and will, and I think I can get an answer to you that's better than I know Commissioner Johnson has done that and will.
Thank you. Representative Fay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two more questions and then a question that isn't about this specifically. And actually, I think I'll ask that one first, which is, I assume if we have additional questions that there would be a way to maybe send them through Maureen, because it's gonna take me a while to digest this, and I'm sure I will have some other questions, and to kind of get them out there so that we can get them answered.
Yep, that process has worked well for the change package. I'm happy to do it for this as well. Yep.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Questions and I write back.
Awesome. And so my two questions are, one specifically around Part S, which is about the CDC drinking water program. Is this grant program a new proposed program to help just public water systems, or will it help private well owners as well, who may have contamination from PFAS or other pollutants? So that's one specific question. And then the other question is, one of the pieces of this that I find intriguing is there seems to be a lot of opportunities for data collection, which I think is really important as we're making policy going forward. We're thinking about, evidence-based policy. And so I'm hopeful that there will be opportunities for that data to be available, for our consumption, so that we can use that going forward to make our work even better.
agree. The Department of Labor, has specifically outlined the importance of that, and all of us, it was part of the conversation that we had around how are we going to ensure that's part of the end game of the metrics. So what data are we collecting? How do we use it so that we can use that information going forward? So we can talk as we get more detail about how we will and what we will be collecting. And then your first question around the water, it's not a new system. I know that it's not a new program. It's an existing program. I'm not sure about individual wells, so I would check. And yeah.
Thank you.
So Commissioner, that's all the hands that are raised for this moment, but I had a couple things that I'd hope you could provide us that I think might help us sift through this an amazing amount of work and information. There are currently direct designations that are going to DOE and HHS that hit a number of huge topics that will help Mainers recover that aren't part of this package. The $411 million that goes to DOE, I have to be very familiar with that, but I'm not as familiar with the HHS or maybe some other big buckets, so to speak. If you had availability of one-sheeters from those departments, it sort of gave us that overview of what else is going on, so that we're not saying, oh, how come we're not doing this here, right? And I think Representative Corey brought up a good example of the substance use issues. There's a lot going on there, and it'd be great if we could have that information around this other money, so to speak.
That's right. That's our two-pager.
Okay, so maybe I've seen it, but I've gotten a lot of emails in the last 2 weeks, so I apologize.
So there's a two-pager that kind of does a grid by sector and populations, and then across the top says ARP, bond, change package.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to maybe re-up that with us.
I will.
But it also
and
is.
Also,
I will share that it doesn't have maybe the level of detail that might be helpful in terms of number, like amount of money necessarily, and that if it had just a slightly more detail, that might be helpful. So I don't want to create more work, but I know that it's out there. And then also, I would appreciate the same information from the higher eds and from the main community college systems around those 35 million in each. Is there something that they could provide us with just slightly more detail than your testimony has done about how they anticipate using those funds and how it interrelates to whatever their plan is? So I'm sure they have it, but if we could just get a little more information on that bucket of money. And in regard to the broadband, I think I've asked the commissioner, I know I've asked Commissioner Johnson this question, that we have an extraordinary opportunity here in terms of the amount of funds available to address a problem, an issue that really can catapult us into the next century. I equivocate this to the electrical system of getting everybody electricity in their homes. And I just want to make sure that I understand the $150 million investment within here, or well, the 129 plus the 21 that you're doing. But I would really appreciate, and it speaks to this county and this city thing as well, really understanding how that is coordinated. I think lots of people have mentioned this. I think it's very important, but I'm hopeful we can, for lack of a better word, turn on the lights in every house around broadband like we do with electricity, right? And I wonder how that is happening and how you provide better service all across the state. I don't know exactly what I'm looking for on that, but I definitely want to have a real grasp of that as we move forward. And then my last thing is, you have provided amazing amount of work where you've taken advantage of existing things that we have within state government to infuse money into. And if there was a way to take the things that already are existing that you're infusing money into, and then the pilot maybe just a little chart about that, so that we can really see, because if and when we are ready to vote on this, some of these things are just ready to take the money and get going, and other things will need a little more time or a little more detail or a little more work behind the scenes to create pilot programs, so to speak. That was a lot. Sorry.
I wrote it all down.
Till the end. I waited till the end.
I wrote it all down.
Are there any? Go ahead.
I would like the opportunity, if I could, just for 1 minute, to thank the cabinet and so many staff people. The amount of work that's happened over the last 16 months, but particularly over the last couple of months as we've done the change package and this plan is extraordinary. And I just want to take an opportunity to thank everybody for that and how great it is to work with this team for sure. And how it's nice to be the point person that gets to talk about all these great things that we can do as a state. But I would like to say that I know for a fact the higher eds will have more information. I will get that for you. And I know that they, at the time that you do talk about this publicly, that they will be there to do that. And like I said, I know that Commissioner Johnson has already started those conversations, had already started them before we knew that we were going to have this opportunity, right? But now with the municipality money and et cetera, and so we can get a plan to you on that. And the other stuff we'll work on as well, your other detailed questions.
Thank you so much. Are there any last questions? So just to reiterate, we do not have a public hearing scheduled as of yet. The Senator Breen and I will be working on that, and more to come and talk about with that. I do want to thank Commissioner Yu and all of the other commissioners and the staffs behind all of the work that's been done here. It's just extraordinary. This is an extraordinary piece of legislation, in addition to the change package that you brought us 3 weeks ago. Really, it's an incredible amount of work and incredible amount of thoughtfulness about how you overlay these things and the impact that we can have for Maine people. So I think this is, while it feels daunting at the moment when you receive these things or when you're working on these things to give to us, it certainly does feel daunting, but I think it comes with amazing opportunity and advantage actually to have these things overlaying each other as we move forward, because you can really see where impact can be, where we can help people who haven't been helped, and where we can catapult ourselves forward. So the next few weeks will be busy. We'll see a lot of each other. I look forward to working with this committee and with you and the rest of the legislature and the team that the cabinet has put together and the governor to sort of pull this all together. So stay tuned. There's a lot more to come. Any other thoughts to my co-chair? Comments, questions?
I just want to thank the commissioner for all the work clearly that her folks have put in, and thank all of our colleagues for listening on a Friday afternoon in June.
Yes.
It's only going to be 90 next week, so that'll be fun when we all get back together.
Someone just sent me a quote. You could end with, "We've done great things before and we'll continue to do them."
I feel like are we sailing through deep waters maybe? I don't know.
I know. How do I connect that to my ship theme? I don't know, but I will know by the time next time I'm in front of you.
Fantastic. So until then, we'll see each other next week in session, and we'll be in touch.